World Vision took these results from the last 10-year audit and they were compiled. And some amazing things have begun to happen as we have dialogue with these sponsored children, their families, community, regional leaders, pastors, faith-based organizations. Let me be clear. Not all the problems have been solved. That's why we're taking 2.5 years to go very slowly as we begin to pull back slightly from the community and allow community organizations to take over. Not everything's been solved. Frankly, that's true about your life as well. And that's true about my life. With reference to the biggest issues, though, that are out of compliance, those are the ones we're monitoring right now, so that our trusted staff are paying special attention to attend to these issues over the next 2 years. And over the last 15 years, the basic DNA of the Rakai community has been changed. You know that, you who have traveled there, and we know that. And for that is the biggest reason why we're celebrating tonight. And I just need to say something, because I've had a number of emails, I've talked to a number of you, had a number of really good, frank conversations. I realize tonight that even hearing this message or getting the newsletter you got, this is a bit of a bittersweet celebration. I'd be less than honest if I didn't say that I was slightly comforted by the fact that there may come a time in which it's going to be very difficult for me to communicate with Justine. And I travel there. I can't imagine what it's like if, for whatever reason, travel there is out of the question. And so the idea of cutting off or slowing communication is in the offing. For World Vision, this is a cause of celebration, but also for tears, because it's a separation in a sense, but it's a separation and a launching pad in a way, in another sense. Now there's some questions that undoubtedly will arise. In fact, they've already begun to arise. What will happen to my child? What will happen to my sponsor child or children? Because many of you have more than one. And I just want to tell you, after talking with our staff in Uganda, there's a tremendous amount of work that's currently being done to really assess who really would find themselves in a vulnerable place once World Vision begins to step back. The biggest issue is around that of education. Primary education, as you know, is free, and you just need to know one of the big reasons why it's free is because communities like Rakai, staffs like World Vision, went to the government and began to rally and ask the government for levels of education to be compulsory and free. If you remember some 20 years back, that was not the case in Uganda. It's true today. And so primary education is free and compulsory in Uganda. We have it on good authority that very soon secondary education will be free as well. That's a big thing for us, because that means we don't need resources or extra jobs or these kinds of things for people to send their kids to school. Right now we're doing a monitor of the kids who are in secondary education who might find themselves in a vulnerable place when we begin to pull back. And as we're monitoring that, we're coming up with solutions so that they don't miss education. And some of them are really interesting because it's about empowering the community, not just paying the community so that they'll take care of kids. How do we empower them so that they have the resources themselves to own their own process? And the same is true also of college. Some are moving toward a college track, and so there are also some communications also being had to allow these children an opportunity to move into the college situation if they so choose. And we'll be getting more of that to you. All this to say that over the next 2.5 years, World Vision's going to be busy, and I sense that you're going to be busy as well. In every sense, we want you to continue writing to your children, encouraging your children, and they're also aware of what's going on as well, so there's a good communication flow going. We're taking it slowly, we're taking it gradually, and in the end, we really want this to be a celebration because it is about a child and a family becoming empowered and a community standing on its own. And you've been a big part of that. I want to thank you for the dream, for the vision that hasn't finished. It's just taking a stop for right now and celebrating so they can move on to the future in other Africans and African communities. Thank you very much.
We want to celebrate what God has been doing in Uganda, and at the same time, Steve pointed out, not pass on too quickly. We have a multi-year process here because in the Crosby household, like as Steve talked about, there will be a grieving as we change our relationship, in our case, with Justine and Rita and Priska and Tanta and Miguel. and a couple others who have already graduated. It's not an academic thing for us. These are not just pictures on our refrigerator. They are letters that we have had, and hugs that we have had the privilege of exchanging over the years. I don't want to sound glib or political by saying we feel your pain, but we feel your pain. This is a part of the maturation process that none of us are thrilled about, as much as we are excited about the idea that we are leaving a community that we have embraced and that God has touched. And we are leaving a group of people where the most substantial change is that there will be a community-based council organization who will be responsible for their community in ways that we never could and never should be. That may be the legacy that you offer. Loans will be continued to be given out for generations to come because of Opportunity International and World Vision and some of the other micro-enterprise funding that you have set up. Young entrepreneurs will continue to be trained. We will have an ongoing commitment to justice, especially in the Uganda section for land rights, because of the hundreds of thousands of dollars that this church has invested in the International Justice Mission, which will continue to look with both eyes on Rakai and Masaka. And our commitment is the commitment that the president of World Vision International once gave. He was at a conference with the head of the UN, Kofi Annan, and Annan was talking about Mozambique and saying, you have 40,000 sponsored children, and there is terror, and there is famine all over. And with tears in his eyes, Dean Hurst leaned forward and said, sir, not one of our children is going to starve. Not one. We're not dropping these kids into a barrel, never to see them again. We have loved them, and we will continue to love them. And even as that relationship changes, we want you to know that that's not your commitment, that's our commitment together. That said, we are also, as Steve said, at the first wave of this, and we're going to make mistakes. We are doing this 2.5, 3 years ahead of time. We may already be behind the curve, but you got to start somewhere. So we're going to try. We're going to ask your patience to help us teach the next wave of churches how to do this with grace and humility and excitement. This should be as exciting. I was at my daughter's college graduation this last weekend, and it was also bittersweet. The sweetest part was to know that I would never write one more check that said wait for college. But it was all, my little baby is gone.